Alright, what's going on, you guys? I wanted to do a review of the fights over the weekend, okay? For the ones that I saw, and just give you my overall thoughts on the fights this past weekend, okay? I'm not going to speak on the Julian J. Rock Williams fight against Jamal Charlo because I just did a separate video review on that. So you can go check that video out. But I wanted to talk about Saturday because it was such a great day. And I say day because we got fights early in the morning. It was an amazing day of boxing. It was the best night of boxing we got in 2016, in my opinion. All right, for us to get that many good fights. All right, and even the UFC had a good card too. All right, if you guys watch the UFC, you know, I had Donald Cerrone fighting Matt Brown, and you know, Max Holloway fighting Anthony Pettis, which were the Pettis fight sucked, but you know, the card overall was good. All right, but the UFC cards are usually good. At least the matchups are good. All right, but in boxing, you know, and I know you guys are tired of me saying this. All right, you're tired of hearing it, and you're tired of people complaining about the sport. But I just want to ask you guys, if you enjoyed Saturday night, which I'm sure most of you did if you're a boxing fan, why can't we get that on a regular basis? I mean, why can't we get good matchups, you know, regularly? And, you know, and some fights are going to become they're going to be a stinker. You know, we're going to get bad fights from time to time. But let's look at the matchups, right? We got Parker against Ruiz. We got Charlo against Williams. We got Cuellar against Morris. Okay. We got what's it called? Chisora against Dillian White. And then you got like Joshua against Molina, and then you got Terrence Crawford against John Molina Jr. Right? And I said those two last for a reason, because the Terrence Crawford fight and the Anthony Joshua fight were two fights where we just knew the outcome already. You know, we just knew the outcome. When I'm doing a prediction video like I did, we're all pretty much saying, okay, Molina has a puncher's chance. Well, both Molinas, because there's two Molinas here. Both of those Molinas have a puncher's chance. But they're fighting really good fighters, and the only way that they can win is because they got a puncher's chance, you know, and that's it, you know. And these are the fights that we're normally getting. I mean, look at the rest of that card. All right, outside of Dillian White against Derek Chisora, there was no evenly matched fights. You know, you had Callum Smith fighting some bum. You had Scott Quigg fighting some bum, and I understand Scott Quigg. His is understandable because he's the first. This is his first fight back from coming off of a fight where his jaw was broken. Okay, so it's a little understandable with him. All right, but you had King Kong, Luis Ortiz fighting some bum. Okay. And I hate to call these guys bums, but let's keep it real. You know, it is what it is. These are fights that we know the outcome. All right, you do a prediction video of those fights like I did. What did I predict? Molina to get knocked out in 3. You know, what did I predict? John Molina to get knocked out within 6 by Terrence Crawford. I mean, that didn't happen. It went to 8, but still, it was no. Look at the fight, man. Did you watch that fight? It was stupid. You know, we're watching a fight, and the commentary is sitting there trying to give justification of why this fight is even happening. They already gave up on the fight. They're sitting there trying to explain to us that, well, John Molina has heart. He's fighting and he's trying. And what he did, well, he got paid. He should try. He got paid. But let's stop using heart as an excuse for a guy that's not on the level of his opponent. Let's not stop doing that, because what are you trying to say? Terrence Crawford don't have heart? You know? I brought that up before when I spoke to Jim Lampley's and his Arturo Gotti, you know, his Arturo Gotti thing that he does, you know, and God bless the dead. I would never try to disrespect Arturo Gotti. I mean, he was a great fighter, you know, but You can't just say a guy that's getting beat up and say, oh, he has heart. Well, he's getting beat up. You know, what about the guy that's winning? Why don't he get credit for having heart? He has the heart to get in there. Why can't Floyd Mayweather have heart? You know? How many fights where he was struggling that he still had to pull through and win? You know? He fought with a broken hand before, you know? So let's stop doing that. All right, but to get back on track. Saturday was an amazing fight night, you know, overall. And why can't we get fights like Ruiz and Parker? Ruiz been fighting for a long time now as a heavyweight. Why is this his first real good fight? You know, what's up with that? Why couldn't they put him in a ring with someone good before that? Why couldn't we get? Why is J-Rock just now stepping up and fighting someone good? You get what I'm saying? Why are we waiting where these guys have 15, 20, 25 wins, 30 wins, and they still didn't fight anyone? I used to say that about Deontay Wilder. You know? Morris with Cuellar was good. You know, I didn't watch the whole fight, but I saw most of it. And Chisora and Chisora and Dillian Whyte was an amazing fight. As far as a war, that was definitely fight of the year, without a doubt. That fight was insane, man. I said "oh shit" like 67 times watching that fight. That was an amazing fight. All the other fights were good too. Morris was good. J-Rock was good. Ruiz and Parker was good. All good fights. All of these were good matchups, and they actually end up being good fights. Why can't we get that? Why can't us boxing fans stop making excuses for poor fights? Let's stop making excuses for fights where we know the outcome. Let's stop making excuses for the shitty fights, because we're too much of a fanboy to call out our fighters that we like. Listen, if I like you, I like you, but if you fighting some bum, I'm gonna call you out for it. You know, I'm gonna call you out on it. You shouldn't be fighting this guy. Why are you fighting this guy? You know, that last guy Danny Garcia fought. Why did he fight that guy? He won't fight Errol Spence, but he'll fight a guy that Errol Spence knocked out already. You know, as a boxing fan, you watching this video, don't you want to see fights like that? Don't you want to have a good Saturday where you're sitting back home, chilling, whatever it is you do, and you turn on the TV, you watch a boxing match, and the whole card is good? Don't you want that as a boxing fan? You know, I don't get it. Like, just stop with the fanboy stuff. Stop with the arguing and complaining and defending fighters and bashing others. Just chill out for a second and say to yourself, what do you want as a boxing fan? What do you want? What do you want? You want to see good fights, right? Sometimes fights end up being stinkers. Sometimes you got great matchups and a fight just don't end up being that good. It is what it is. It happens. Sometimes the styles don't match well. Even though the matchups are good, the styles don't match up that well. You know, but at least have guys that deserve to be fighting each other, fight each other. At least have that. All right. All right. I already did a post-fight video on Ruiz and Parker, so check that video out. That's up. And also check out the video with Charlo and J-Rock, and where I speak on 154 and Andre Canelo. I talked about all of that in the most recent video. I do want to speak on the other fights. Mares against Cuellar. I was going with Cuellar. I was going with Mares to win. You know, I thought if it became a boxing match, that Mares was going to be the superior boxer. And then, you know, not by much, but I thought it was going to be a war, and that was what I was wrong about. Mares actually tried to outbox him, which he did, and he won the fight. I didn't watch the entire fight yet because my DVR, Showtime, did a terrible job with the times of the fights. Okay, some of the fights turned off too early, You know, they had Joshua fight with Eric Molina, and everything got kind of messed up on there. So I didn't get to watch the whole fight, but I did see a good majority of it while I was out, and I saw some of the highlights and everything as well. Okay, looked like it, from what I saw, it was a good fight. Okay, it wasn't the war I thought it was going to be. It wasn't like Mares against Cruz. What's his name? Who's the guy he fought last year? Anyway, I can't think of his name right now. Santa Cruz. All right. It wasn't that fight, but it was still a good fight. All right. And what I want for this at this point at 126 is I want to see unification, just like every other division. Okay. Let's stop sticking around the same two fighters. Everybody's waiting around to see what Carl Frampton is going to do in his rematch with Santa Cruz. And let's stop waiting around, all right? Lee Selby, what's up with Lee Selby? What's up with Gary Russell Jr.? What's up with Oscar Valdez? You know, all those guys should be fighting each other at this point. You know, let's get these other fights popping. Let's not sit around and wait till the winner of rematches where we can have more rematches. All right? Scott Quigg, too. He's back. Let's get it on. Like, let's get some real fights going. Let's stop just sticking around fighting the same old guys. The same 2-3 fighters are fighting each other. Let's stop doing that. That's all I want from this division. It was a good fight. I'm glad Morris won. You know, he's still relevant. Cuellar got plenty of time. He's still a beast. He has plenty of time to get back on his feet. It's not a bad loss. It still was a competitive fight. It was still very close. All right? Let's get back to it. These guys at 126, let's go. Gary Russell, you gotta get back in there with someone real good. Let's get him a real fight again. All right, Oscar Valdez, he's doing his thing. He's undefeated. He looks great. You know, he might be the best at the division. Let's get that fight. Like, let's get him fighting another champ right now. All right, that's what I want to see at 126. All right. What other fights we got? Derek Chisora against Dillian White. All right, fight of the year. Fight of the year. War of the year. All right. If you don't like the sloppy fighting like that, then you might not think it's fight of the year. But these are the fights that usually get nominated as fight of the year. And I think out of all of the brawls we've seen, that was by far the best one. That's another fight I watched while I was out. Okay. I don't know why Showtime didn't pick up that fight. They should have definitely picked up that fight instead of doing this. They had an hour-and-a-half segment on Showtime, and they didn't even show. They didn't even get to the Anthony Joshua fight till after the hour-and-a-half where I DVR'd it. You know, they didn't even get to that fight. They could have been showing that fight. You know, I don't know why they didn't pick up that fight, but I understand the business. All right, we don't have to go into that. The way I saw the fight, the way I seen it is that it seemed like Dillian White was consistent every round. All right, he was consistent, but Derek Chisora was more effective. That 1 minute of every round that Chisora fought, it looked like he was going to knock Dillian White out every single time. You know, that's the way I saw it. I thought Dillian White was still coming, you know, whether he was going backwards or moving forward. He definitely fought better when he was going backwards and there was some distance between the two of them. All right, so he was more consistent every round. But when Chisora came on strong, he fought in spurts and he tried to seriously knock out Dillian White. He almost did a lot of times in this fight. All right, he had Dillian White's head flopping all over the place. It looked like Dillian White was in trouble almost every round. But Dillian White fought throughout each round. Derek Chisora, the older guy, you know, the more experienced guy, but the guy that's been through so many wars, he's been through so many big fights. He looked like he couldn't fight in that same pace throughout every round. He couldn't do it. He was the older guy, and, you know, he's been through a lot more. Dillian White was coming more. He was doing more work, and this is why I guess they gave him the edge. Who I think won? I mean, I would like to see the fight again. You know, but from what I seen, that's what I saw. You know, I hate when there's a loser in fights like these. Like, I hate when there's a loser. I hate when they have to pick a winner. You know, because that fight was so damn good. No one lost in that fight, in my eyes. No one lost. You know, I wish it was a draw. You know, it was the fight. When you get a fight like that, you just hope it's a draw. You know, but they gave it to White. You know, I thought White was just gonna do a little bit more with the distance and better with the body work. But both of those guys, it seemed like Chisora was doing much better going to the body. And as soon, you know what? Believe it or not, Dillian White looked tired after the first round. He was breathing. Go back and watch it. Even in the first round, Dillian White looked like he was breathing out of his mouth. He looked like he's breathing heavy. Chisora was definitely using his experience and his will on that young boy and going to his body. All right, both did a good job. I'm not gonna even sit here and tell you who I thought won. I just saw it. You could see it either way. You know, I thought Chisora was more effective when he was coming on. But Dillian White was more consistent. Well, he wasn't landing. He was landing big shots too, but he didn't seem like he really hurt Chisora. Chisora looked more tired than hurt, whereas Dillian White looked like he was hurt a lot more often. But Dillian White was definitely, the volume was higher with Dillian White. There was points where Chisora just wasn't throwing anything. You know, he was trying to save up and muster up the energy to fight the next round. All right, so no losers there, and I hope both of them still continue to get. I mean, I never was a Chisora fan like that, but he definitely earned my respect in that fight. That was a good fight. All right, all right. So moving on. What other fights we got? We got Terrence Crawford. You know, and this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video. Why can't we see him fight Adrian Broner? Like, why can't we get with that fight? They're supposed to be cool with Al now. Let's get that fight. Let's get that fight. Like, why not make that fight? If he's gonna fight at 140, let's fight Adrian Broner. What's Adrian Broner doing right now? What is he doing right now? Let's get that fight. I want to see that fight. I want to see that fight. Straight up. I can't remember who else is holding the title at 140 right now, but I don't want to see Terrence Crawford beat up on anybody else we know he's going to beat up on. You know, let's get that, you know, either move the welterweight or fight the guys that people want to see you fight. If we found out tomorrow that Terrence Crawford's next fight is against Adrian Broner, everybody's going to be talking about that fight. Let's get that fight. I want to see that fight. All right, that's the fight I want to see at 140 right now. You know, I want to see that fight. I think Terrence Crawford will win, but I still want to see it. I still want to see it. All right, you know, but the fight looked terrible. John Molina looked. Anyway, John Molina had no business being in that ring. All right, let's talk Anthony Joshua against Eric Molina and Klitschko. Obviously, Eric Molina didn't do anything. You know, I knew Joshua was gonna knock him out earlier than Deontay Wilder did. I knew it was gonna be an easier fight for him. You know, I think Eric Molina is always dangerous, but Joshua is just more skilled, and he's bigger and he's stronger and he hits harder, and Molina didn't have a shot winning. This whole fight was just to make some money and to set up a whole Klitschko match. All right, so we're gonna talk about that match right now, because this whole thing was everyone's talking about the face-off, and obviously the two of them, there's no bad blood between the two of them. Okay, you know, we know that Joshua was a part of Klitschko's camp a couple of years back. And it's no bad blood there. You know, both of them have a lot of respect, and it's shown when they meet in the ring. This is how I feel. I feel like Joshua's style works a lot better for Klitschko than Tyson Fury's style. Okay, so regardless of who you think is going to win this fight, and I'm not gonna, I don't know who I'm going with. Regardless of who you pick, just know that Anthony Joshua is not Tyson Fury. Okay? He could be more, obviously, he's more likely to knock out Klitschko than Tyson Fury was. But he's not more likely to outbox Klitschko. Okay? So this makes for a better fight, which is good, because that Tyson Fury fight was not a good fight with Klitschko. All right? It wasn't a good fight. It was a very boring fight. I mean, Fury did what he had to do to win, but there was literally no action in that fight. Mainly because of Klitschko. Mainly because Klitschko was trying to grab. You know, he couldn't deal with Tyson Fury's length and his range and his lateral movement. He couldn't, and his volume. He couldn't do it. Joshua doesn't really bring that. Joshua is a move forward type of fighter. He could fight on his back foot a little bit, but he's usually coming forward. Okay, which will be good for Klitschko, because Klitschko welcomes that. Guys that's going to be standing in front of him, walking in a straight line. Klitschko is going to be prepared for Joshua. Okay, so I think that's a fight that can go either way. Obviously, you got to put the fact that Klitschko has been out of the ring for a long time now, and by the time they actually fight, it's going to be either another 6 months or whatever it's going to be until the fight, another 4 or 5 months before they fight. So, and hopefully Klitschko doesn't pull out of the fight for injury, because he's known to do that a lot. So hopefully the fight actually happens without any injuries, okay, and it doesn't get postponed to next fall. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but don't be surprised if it happens, all right? Hopefully there's no injuries. Hopefully we can get the fight as soon as possible, all right? But I think the fight can go either way, man. I think Joshua, he's gonna have to move a little bit. I think he's gonna have to move and give him some different looks, because even with Brian Jennings, and even though Jennings didn't really have much of a chance of winning that fight, you can tell that Jennings' movement and his movement definitely bothered Klitschko. When you compare that to Pulev, what did Pulev do? Pulev stood right in front of him and tried to outbox him while they're standing right in front of each other, right while staying in the pocket. That was dumb, and that's why he got knocked out the way that he did. All right, guys like Fury, even guys like Jennings, guys that was circling him, you know, just giving them different things to look at. You know, it's just, you don't want to just stand right in front of Klitschko. All right, and Joshua, I know he's the bigger guy and everything, but Klitschko has fought guys big, other big fighters. It's not gonna really matter. All right, so you know, I don't know how that fight is gonna go, but I'll give, you know, I'll think about it and give a prediction later on down the line. All right, I think I spoke on all of the fights. Crawford, I think I pretty much spoke on them all right? But, you know, overall, you know, I just wanted to speak about, you know, the sport and how good this past weekend was in boxing. It was a very good weekend, and I would like to get more nights like that, where I'm entertained and I'm watching good fights, man. You know, whatever networks, you know, if all the networks, all different, you know, you had Sky Sports put out this card, you had Sky Sports, you had Showtime, you had HBO, all putting out cards. That's good. That's good, you know, and we're not gonna always get that every single weekend or anything. I'm not asking for it every weekend, but we should be getting good matchups like the ones that we got this past weekend. Not all of them were good, not all of them, but the majority of them were good, you know, and that made a great weekend for me. And we need to get that. We need to get more of that, you know. And the boxing fans need to demand that too, because we are spending money on this sport. Our dollars are going into the sport. All right. So instead of being a fanboy, sit here and ask for what you want to see. All right. So anyway, you guys, let me know how you know, give me your thoughts on this weekend fights, and see you on the next one. And be sure to check out my other post-fight reviews on the other fights from this weekend that's not in this video. All right, and make sure you guys subscribe too. All right.